Hey, good evening, and welcome to the 2017 State of the Community, featuring updates from your city of Camas, my mistake. Just joking with you. Port of Camas and Washougal, and your Camas School District. All right. Our recent fall weather outside with the sunshine, crisp air, multicolored leaves, has been sensational. But you haven't seen anything yet. Tonight's presentations promise to be informative and inspirational, full of reminders why Camas is such a special place to live, work, learn, and play. My name is Steve Marshall, and I believe our mayor and superintendent are going to give you brief autobiographies. So I'm going to follow their lead and do the same. But because I'm not on the same tier as these gentlemen, I'm going to keep it short. I'm a lifelong resident of Southwest Washington, and I moved to Camas nearly 20 years ago when I was considered new Camas at that time. The people, the history, the strong sense of community, excellent schools, police, vibrant downtown, and supportive businesses have kept me, my children, my wife, place-bound. I've worked in the Camas School District since 2008, and currently I am the Director of Educational Resources. I was very honored about 5 hours ago when Scott contacted me to ask if I'd be willing to fill in for the ailing Doug Quinn as the Master of Ceremonies. It felt great to be the first alternate for this opportunity. Second alternate? Third. Anyway, it feels fairly good to be in the top quartile of possible Masters of Ceremony in the East Vancouver, Washougal, Camas area. Okay, on with the program. Please join me in applauding the quintet of Camas High School students and obviously musicians, Amy Fan, Sophia Hansen, Wilson Ho, Sheng Yan, and Angela Shu, for matching the special atmosphere outside, Lacamas Lake Lodge, with a special atmosphere inside with their music. And they're going to play one more piece for us right now. So Amy, Sophia, Sheng, Wilson, and Angela, by any chance, do you know the national anthem? Can you play that this evening as well? No? Okay. We're going to do... Thank you for being here this evening and adding some warmth and a little culture to this event. I know you guys have homework. to do. So at this time, you may kind of gracefully excuse yourselves. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I think what we're going to do in lieu of the national anthem is we're going to wait here awkwardly while we see if some are. Okay, we're all going to please stand and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The State of the Community has a short but a very important tradition. The first State of the Community took place in 2013 in the Camas High School Theater, and it has been held there every year since until tonight. It has moved to the beautiful Camas Lake Lodge. But the purpose remains the same. For the leaders of our city government, our schools and industry to interface with Camas citizens and inform those in the audience of new programs, trends, expenditures, developments, and future plans. And the format remains the same. Mayor Scott Higgins, class of 90, Camas High School, Superintendent Jeff Snell, and Executive David Ripp, via video, are all allotted a certain amount of time that they will all exceed. Following these presentations, two of which are live and one is by video, audience members are encouraged to follow up with these leaders with any questions or concerns or comments they may have. They may also want to talk to others in our audience as well. And so I think at this point it would be important to point out that city employees tonight in the audience have a name badge. And we have 4 members of our city council here this evening. And I think what I'm going to do, just so there's name recognition and face recognition, can I ask you to stand? So Greg Anderson, Bonnie Carter, Melissa Smith, and Shannon Turk, our council members. They are joined by 3 members of the Camas School Board of Directors, President Julie Rotz, Connie Hennessy, and Tracy Malone. Would you 3 please stand? And we have a commissioner from the Port of Camas Washougal, John Spencer. You're here tonight. Thank you, John. All right, so before we bring Mayor Higgins to the lectern, I'd like to get a quick profile of who's here tonight. Please raise your right hand if you reside in Camas. Do you solemnly swear to uphold the traditions and fulfill the responsibilities that come with being a Camas citizen? Okay, what I'm really trying to get is an idea of proportions. So I saw a lot of hands go up. Would you raise your hand if you're an employee of the city of Camas? Okay. See a little separation here. Raise your hand if you're employed by the Camas Public Schools. Okay. Raise your hand if you're associated with the port. All right. And how about this one? Raise your hand if you have raised a family in Camas. All right. And this is the last question. Okay. Raise your hand if you've enjoyed one of our parks, a CHS football game or athletic event, a First Friday, or another community event like Boo Bash in the last few months. That's very telling. All right. What we're going to do now, Scott is going to lead us off. You know a little bit about me, and we know a little bit about you, and Mr. Higgins is going to share a little bit about himself. So let's learn more about him and what's in store for the city of Camas. Please welcome Scott Higgins to the stage.
Appreciate it. Number 2. Steve, for a number 3, you have done an exceptional job. It's kind of amazing. It makes me feel like we should have bumped you to 2 years ago. I mean, it really does. Now, appreciate you substituting. Doug has traditionally helped us with this, and when Pete gave me word today that Doug wasn't going to make it, I kind of did some brainstorming, and I have a great soft spot in my heart for Steve Marshall because of many reasons. One, of his tremendous love for the community, but also because he loved my daughter for 4 years as she attended Camas High School. And anyone who loves one of my kids, I'm going to love forever. And so he only got to love Chloe for 1 year, but maybe you could consider loving her for the next couple of years as she's there, even though you're not there. But I certainly appreciated the work you did at Camas High School. It's made a difference in a lot of kids' lives, so thank you for that. And I'm excited you're continuing to work here in the community and continuing to bring that Camas love in everything you do. I think most people here know me and know my history. Most of you know I'm a lifelong resident. I do this job for one reason and one reason only, is because I wanted to make sure my children had a great place to grow up just like I got. And so a lot of things have changed in the time that I was a kid in Camas to what's today. But when I ask my kids today, have you had a good childhood? Did you enjoy your time in Camas? They answer yes. And so that's the sole reason. And I'm proud that has been successful for them. And I hope it's been successful for lots of other children and families in that process as well. So that's really all I want to say about me. I've got a lot of details I want to talk about tonight. There's a lot going on in our community, and I want to make sure I at least cover as much as I can in as close to my time frame as possible. The theme that we have tonight, this seems awful hot. And the theme that we have tonight is just maintaining a solid foundation. What you've seen going on in our community is a lot of work that is building a foundation that we think is going to make us successful for a long time. The first thing I want to just kind of show you about is, and you have some information on your chairs there, that this last year we took out to try to make sure we had a real good strategic plan for our team to follow that met the needs of our citizens, that was put together with the input of our city council, the input of our management team, many staff members, and of course citizen groups, and a community survey. We surveyed them and said, hey, what do you like most about Camas? What do you want? What do you want it to look like in the future? We got as much information as we could, and from that tried to figure out how we can best deliver our citizens' expectations and desires with the resources that we have available to us. And so we're excited to kind of launch that. And we're at the beginning. We formulated the plan. Just a second here, I'm going to launch a video and let you kind of see a little bit. We have 3 videos on our website that talk a little bit more about this plan. And we're in year 1 of 3 of trying to implement that plan. And so with that, I'll just get out of the way and let you listen to this.
I'm Scott Higgins, the mayor of Camas, Washington, and we're excited to explain to you and show you a little bit of our strategic plan. This year we decided to focus on coming up with a plan that would help us to keep Camas a great place to live. We gathered our council members, different staff members, worked with some consultants, and came up with some real strategies and ideal goals for us to be striving for so that we can continue to work and have real focused energy going towards keeping Camas great.
Decades ago, the City of Camas, our business community, and our school district decided that we needed to make our schools top-notch. And they worked together and achieved that goal. And they continue to achieve that goal with each student that goes through Camas schools.
Jobs in our community have been big since day one. The Ledbetters and the Pittocks started this town by putting in a paper mill. The paper mill supported the Oregonian newspaper, and the theme at that time was, when you live in Camas, you work in Camas. That's kind of what we want to have in our vision as we go forward. It's a great place. Camas is a great place to raise a family. It's got a hometown feeling. It feels safe. We've got great schools, but what ties the whole thing together is if people can work in the community too and be near where those schools are, they have the opportunity to spend more time with their kids and enjoy the area.
Camas being a great place to raise a family was important to our vision because we wanted to make sure that our community was very inclusive. We've talked about, as a council, hoping that our children come back after they go away to college and coming back to live in Camas. We've talked about having our parents being able to stay in Camas and find housing in Camas. So it was important to us to recognize that within our vision, so that when we're setting policy, we know that we're keeping track of those things that are important to us.
Public safety is an important issue to me because that's the world I come from. I worked for 35 years as a law enforcement officer, and I really do think I have a sense, and therefore the community has a sense of the need to be safe. People flock to Camas because they're aware of the reputation that we have in Camas for providing a safe and caring community.
Our city staff are the face of the city, and they reach out to the most citizens throughout the city, and it's important to have good staff and provide the services and to get the feedback that the citizens want.
Continuous improvement is important because we can always do better than we've done before, and we need to look at our processes and continue to make them better so that we can be more efficient with our time and also provide better service to the customers. Accountability is important, especially to the department heads. Because of the culture of the organization, we've not always done a good job of holding people accountable. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, we just find somebody else to do it. Well, it's time to change that culture, and if someone has some responsibilities or some duties, we need to make sure that they do them and we hold them accountable. And even as department heads, we hold each other accountable. So it's really something that we want very much to get better at.
As we continue to grow as a city, the financial stability of us continues to be an important factor. Analyzing all of our expenses, finding out different ways to have revenue will be a continued important factor as we grow and stabilize the beautiful city that we have.
It's important for us to preserve our integration to the outdoors in our strategic plan, because the outdoors are such an important part of why people come to Camas. 73% of the people in our community survey said that the trails were very important to them. They also said that over the next 2 years, that's a focus, creating more trails in our community. So knowing that that's what the community wants and that integration with the outdoors is something that we should be striving for was an important reason to put it into our strategic plan.
So I would encourage you, if you get a chance, to go to our website and look for more of those videos that kind of go in detail of our strategic plan. When you do a project like that, often there's either bloopers or there's the rest of the story. And one fun fact I'll share with you is that on that opening scene, I had just an hour earlier received a root canal, and my face is falling off of myself, and my glasses are on because I really barely knew where I was at the moment. But I went on with the task at hand, and so that's just a little inside info you don't get every day. Want to just go on and talk about an area that is developing right now and that we think is a really significant improvement of what's happening. And that's out in Camas Meadows. You may have noticed Payne Road has been closed. If you've been out at the golf course this summer, you've seen that a development is taking place. I just wanted to show you some of what's going to happen there as it completes. Right now, I don't even know if this has a pointer. Oops, that was not it. Well, right now, Camas Meadows Drive dead ends at that roundabout right there. And what's happening in this project is Camas Meadows Drive, as was always planned, is being improved and connected to Larkspur that will connect it up to the light and Lake Road. This will enhance transportation, it will enhance safety, it will provide sidewalk access to many of our neighbors and bike lane access to let people access a really beautiful part of our community. It also will have lots of trail integration, and Jerry can talk to you more about it. He's here, where we have a plan that will show all these trails in our city connecting and coming together. So the vision would be you could walk anywhere you want, from one side of the community to another, from from Washougal to Vancouver and everywhere in between without fear of really any kind of harrowing traffic issues as you go through those trails. This is going to be a very, I think, good development for us. We have shopping and also some office buildings that are going to be lining that, consistent with the business park along there. And right now, effort is being made to try to see which businesses those might be. Behind that will be a 42-lot subdivision, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. It is a growing section of our community. It's been part of the city for 20 plus years now, and is now seeing investment that I think will show and be done very, very well. Part of what makes this development special is this section of road from that intersection to where it drops off the map is being privately funded by those who are doing the projects here. So the city's role in this was making sure it's to the design standards that it needs to be, making sure that it's set up for the future, and our citizens will benefit from having that connection made. The city took it from where the current barricade is now and will improve it all the way up to the site with a $3.4 million grant that we received from the state of Washington. So all of that will help that circulation. It is my hope that Concerts for a Cause, that much of our community got to enjoy and participate in for many years, with this project complete, might be able to be added back to our community, and I think that's something that everyone will enjoy. I'm not announcing that will happen. I'm hopeful that that will happen. And we also will see Payne Road improved. This has never really been a city road, but everyone in the city uses it as if it was a city road. And so with cooperation with the landowners on this side and with another developer on this side, that road is going to be dedicated to the city and improved. So by the end of these projects, you're going to have really great circulation to a gem and to a park's head where you'll have lots of opportunity for recreation as well as for business opportunities. I think that'll be a good project that you'll see in here. The time frame on that should be hopefully to have that road open for circulation by the fall of next year. Next slide I wanted to just kind of show you about, and talking about strengthening and building these foundations. You had to have been asleep if you did not notice the sewer project that's been going on in our city. If you have been paying attention, you were impacted mostly on Everett from May until August of this last year. That was part of running this sewer line from our existing facilities all the way out to Goodwin Road, which does a lot of things. It services north of the lake, where in the future there will likely be growth as it is part of the city, as well as it will serve the new elementary school that is going to be built, and Jeff will have more to show about that. That's been an exciting project. It clearly had an opportunity to get in our way as we were going through life, but now it's down on the Ledbetter Road, and that road is going to remain closed to the completion of the project. That doesn't affect as many people, and I think most people just assume it's done because they're not seeing it, but it's not done yet. It is on track to be ahead of budget at $15.5 million, and will also get a water line to connect the school at that time. You've seen, and it is tracking to be open in May. You may have noticed a new pedestrian bridge over here. We're trying to find a creative way to get the sewer line over and also improve pedestrian access and to our parks. And so our staff came up with, we have a bridge similar to this on the Washougal River. They said, hey, can we do this again? And so instead of digging through the bridge and existing road bridge and trying to figure that out, we said, what if we built a pedestrian bridge, put those pipes through that, and then now added an asset to our parks and to our trails. And so you can't walk across it yet, but I think by the spring you should be able to, and it should be a really nice connection to our park system once again. I like to think our staff is always looking for creative ways to put in the infrastructure they need, but also connect the things that our community likes so much. So hopefully you'll get to enjoy that and see that as it comes. When you're putting in foundational elements, there's always more detail than I'm able to give at this time. So I'd encourage you to look at our city webpage. We have a new tab called Projects, and you can get a lot more detailed information on a lot of these projects and when they're going. Plus, we have department heads here, and they'd be happy to tell you more about that. I feel like every year for 3 years I've been talking about this, but I get to finally say it's done, and I have an opportunity to kind of explain why. Sometimes people think, well, how come Forest Home Road was closed for so long? It must be because the city's not very good at doing their job, or whatever reason people come up with. No, what we were really trying to do is save our citizens money, so that money could be used for other purposes. And so once we knew we had this slide, and once we knew it was unsafe for traffic to continue, we recognized that it would qualify for FEMA aid. We recognized that if we went through the slow process of applying for federal aid, that we would likely save our citizens quite a bit of money. And so we decided that the delay was worth the potential reward. And with that slide, as well as the one that happened the same winter on Camas Lane, just around the corner here, we turned both of those projects in for FEMA funding. They took a little longer than if we'd gone and tackled them ourselves, but we were able to save our citizens nearly $1 million, over $900,000 by waiting to get that federal help than trying to tackle it on our own. So I'm happy to announce both those roads are open and functioning. Our federal government partners and the state of Washington made sure that the city's dollars went way, way further than they ever would have gone if we tried to do it on our own. I also want to make sure that we talk about this. There is so much love of parks and trails and open space in our community, and rightly so. We all live in such a beautiful place. And as much of the land as we can possibly get to bring into city ownership, it usually is good for our community. There are times when that doesn't always work out, when private development owns property and they don't wish to do that. They want to use their own rights to do their thing. But we have been fortunate enough, through the great work of Jerry Atchison, our Parks Director, as well as Pete Capel, to work for quite a while now on trying to assemble almost 100 acres of protected land north of the lake that will eventually make it so that there is an entire green space around the entirety of the lake. It will protect it for generations to come. We're super excited about it. It qualified #1 in a Conservation Futures grant where everybody throughout the county gets to apply to see whose project is best, and it's highly competitive. There's a limited amount of money, and not everyone's going to walk away a winner, and Camas is able to walk away a winner with the #1 project. It's an expensive project. We were granted half, basically, of what we need, and so we're trying to figure out how to get the other half, because we know that this is something that we're going to make happen for the benefit of our citizens. It's going to be a great thing. And we're really excited because the vision then calls for eventually Camas Lake or Ledbetter Road to not be used for traffic, and that new infrastructure over the years, as it gets built, will allow us to not let traffic go down Ledbetter Road anymore, and instead turn Camas Lake into one giant trail where people can run the entire lake in a circle, they can walk it, they can ride bikes, and that is our vision that we're working towards. We are in the process of setting that up for the future. I can't tell you exactly when that's all going to happen, but the plans are in place. We're acquiring the land. We are hoping for that to happen. We are planning for that to happen, and we think that work will benefit people for many, many years to come. Not a runner, so I'm not going to ever probably run around the lake, but I know I walk past lots of runners, and I can imagine they are going to very much enjoy making that circulation. My mind starts going to, half marathons and different things that might happen in our community if you had an asset like that people could see. Another exciting thing I want to share with you is the fact that after quite a bit of absence, 16 years, this next year, Camas will be featured as a community in the Parade of Homes. The 2018 Parade of Homes just announced that they will be having their location September 7th through the 23rd at the Parklands development. That's the development that I just talked about, where the infrastructure is going in near the golf course. And they will feature in their press release, they said, up to 14 homes, all of them with values of at least $1 million. It will be quite a showcase of really nice homes, ideas, and really a showcase of our community. If you've ever been to a Parade of Homes, one of the things that always jumps out at me, especially the last few I've gone to, is the community interaction that happens. As I went to the last one, another high school that I will not mention had their support and football team members there, and they were helping in the parade, and they were doing things and using it as a fundraiser. And what it struck me as is when you have a parade of homes, you have a community celebration. You have an opportunity to let people see who you are, let people know about your community, and get to see some real innovation in building. There's some neat things that are about being featured in this parade. The council has talked for a long time about accessory dwelling units and whether those would work in developments in the future. The ability to have maybe an in-law or a parent, maybe a child to live in a separate dwelling that's attached to the property. That currently is not allowed in very many places in our city. And in this development, there'll be the opportunity to see how that works and to see if that's a trend in the future that might help an aging population, that might help some of the trends that we're seeing today. There'll be other innovative things that I think you'll see. It'll be a really great, exciting opportunity for people to see what Camas is all about, in connection with connected trails and open spaces and all kinds of walkable areas right adjacent to a golf course. So I think you'll enjoy seeing that. That brings me to my last slide, and this is the part where I just want to kind of speak, I think, mainly from the heart for a second. And I want to just let you know that, it's obvious that we're experiencing growth here. I mean, half of my presentation here is talking about how much growth is happening. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that that growth isn't something that is only happening in Camas. That growth is happening all over this county. It's happening all over the state. It's part of the kind of economic cycle that we're in. And one of the reasons that's happening is because our area is a real attractive place to live. And it's because private property owners have some rights to do stuff with their land in this state. So that growth starts to happen. And anytime you have growth, you have challenges and you have opportunities. And what I have learned in my 16 plus years of serving this community is that as hard as I try, I am not going to ever be able to please every single person. Everyone has different expectations. Everyone has a different rate that they think they should grow, and everyone thinks there are things that should be done differently. And yet we still try to figure out best how to walk forward as a community together. And we live in a really, really special place. And this is where I just really wanted to emphasize for a second. The reason this place is special is not because of its population. And I'm afraid some people think that's what it is. And the reason I know that that's not true is because Camas was a special place when I was a kid, and there was 5,000 people here. Camas was special. When I bought and built my first house and started my family, Camas was a special place when it had 15,000 residents in it. And right now, as Camas approaches about 23,000 residents, Camas remains a special place. So size is not what makes Camas special. The population number is not what makes Camas special. I'm going to tell you what I think makes Camas special. It's the quality of the people. It's the fact that people's character matters. It's the fact that people do the right thing. It's the fact that people generally believe the best about each other. It's the fact that people look out for each other. And it's what we in the city call the Camas way. What I call it is doing unto others as you have done to you. And that is what has made Camas special. And as long as I'm your mayor, I will fight hard to make sure that that thing that makes Camas special never, ever changes. So please help me in communicating that message. Growth is happening. It's going to happen. And Camas will remain special if you remain special and if I remain special. I appreciate your time tonight. I just have one more thing to say. Go Camas, beat Union!
Thank you, Mayor Higgins. Obviously, Scott's leadership and his spirit has been foundational to what Camas is and to what Camas is going to become. So thank you, Mayor. At this juncture, I'm going to do something unconventional, okay? I can't think of a better springboard to Superintendent Snell's remarks than to have one of our students come in belatedly to perform the national anthem. Okay? So let me tell you about Samara. Samara Davis is a product of the Camas schools. She attended Prune Hill Elementary, Skyridge Middle School, and is currently a senior at Camas High School. Samara was recognized by one of our teachers, the Teacher of the Year for the ESD 112, Ethan Chesson, as having something special in her. So for the past 4 years, he has cultivated her singing and her passion for music. She has a dream of attending the Berklee School of Music in Massachusetts. And so I asked her, Samara, what happened? She said, I was caught in traffic. There was a car wreck on the 205 bridge. I was coming back from Portland, and I said, can you still bring it? And she said, I'm going to bring it. And so I said, well, we're going to let you take the stage, because not only is she a performer, she's an example of a student in the Camas School District. So let's welcome Samara Davis, who's going to perform our national anthem. All right.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All right. Well done. Put it in there. Okay. Nice work, Samara. Samara missed out on being selected for The Voice on NBC by that much. She auditioned last spring and just didn't make it to the final round. Okay, Superintendent Jeff Snell. He works to provide opportunities and inspiration to 7,000 students like Samara. And he's an excellent educator and probably an even better educational leader. He's a visionary. He's also my evaluator, okay? I've worked with Jeff for the past 6 years, but I've known Jeff for 3 times that amount. Always been impressed with his character, his integrity, and his commitment to youth. So not only is Jeff is dedicated to students, he's dedicated to this school district. And I think when he presents his PowerPoint to you, you'll see his fingerprints all over what he's about to share with you. So let's welcome Superintendent Jeff Snell to the stage.
Well, good evening. It's always a bit humbling to speak on behalf of amazing students like Samara, or our students that were here earlier, and just to be a part of this community. You always kind of have to think, am I the guy that's following Mayor Higgins here and going to talk about what we do? But I get that opportunity, and it's a wonderful role that I get to play every day in our community. I get to work with just amazing kids, amazing staff, amazing families. This is my family. We've been in Camas for, I think, about 13 years now. Kinsey and Stephen are twins, and they are sophomores at Camas High School. So they're 15 and a half, so they're learning to drive. So that's, if you see us on the road and I look pretty stressed, it's probably because Stephen or Kinsey's driving me. And I'm trying to be supportive, right? But I've been in education for quite a while, and I've got to do a lot of different things. And this is my second year as superintendent, and I love it. I love what I get to do. It's a challenging job, but it's a very, very rewarding opportunity that I have. As Steve said, we're not a small community. We haven't been for a long time. We serve 7,100 students. I always think 1,000 employees I'm responsible for. And when we think about the industries in our community, we're near the top, the school district. So there's a lot that goes on every day. And I always am amazed just at the coordination to think of that we get all these kids to and from school every day. There's a lot to it. And last year, unfortunately, it seemed like we didn't get them to school as frequently as I wanted in the wintertime because it was snowy all the time. But everybody's patience with that was really appreciated. Of those 1,000 employees, everything from our grounds crew, our maintenance crew, bus drivers. If you want to drive bus for us, please let us know. We need bus drivers. All the way to our certificated teachers, the ones that are in the classroom with our kids every day. And, 451 of them this year, so it's a lot. 6 elementary schools, 2+ middle schools, 3+, it's actually 2+ high schools. The reason the plus is because we're in the process of completing 2 new schools, and I'll tell you a little more about that. We have, like most school districts, most communities, we have mission and vision statement, and sometimes they get a little wordy. And I also recognize that they're kind of similar to every other 294 other school districts in the state. So, what sets us apart? And for me, when we think about our mission and vision, this learning community is something that's really important to us here, that we work through things together. We want to work alongside of families. We want to work alongside of our partners in the city and figure things out. And when we create that community of learning and that expectation that there aren't easy answers, but it's kind of the journey that's the most important part, amazing things happen. And then in our vision statement, we really talk about these lifelong learners. As you know, the world that our kids are going to looks far different than the world that we entered. Kids are expected to change careers a lot. They're expected to work with diverse communities across the world. And so if we help them be confident in who they are as a learner, that carries far greater than if they're a good mathematician or, of course we want all those other skills, but they need to understand who they are as a learner so that they can contribute it to society when they leave us. And we hope that they don't leave us too far and come back to us, right, Mary, again?
Exactly.
We've talked this year a lot about alignment in our system. As we grow, we're moving from places where it was easy to operate in kind of silos and it was okay to do that, to now when we're talking about 1,000 employees, we want to get them on the same page and we want to be efficient with our resources. And so alignment is really important. When we have alignment, then it gives us opportunity to do these small tests of change. For a long time, it felt like in our world that failure was a bad thing. We embrace failure. Every day we fail 1 million times in our district. And those failures are the things that allow students to move forward. So opportunity even here with Samara. She's late. She shows up anyway, right? If I was a high school kid and I was late, I probably would have just called it in, right? No, she's here and here we go, right? And so that kind of embracing the unknown and saying I'm going to try something different is really important to us. We want our staff to feel comfortable with those risks. And because 7,100 students, we want to know each of them, right? Uniquely, who they are, who they can be, who they want to be, their talents. So that's a challenge to get to know 7,100 students. I wish I knew all of them by name because they're all as incredible as Samara. But as we grow, those are things that we need to be really intentional about. So like the city, we have gone through strategic planning. Back in 2015, we did a pretty ambitious undertaking where we engaged our community and really talked about who we are, who we were, are currently, and who we wanted to be. And we'd always had this caring and quality were part of our mission statement. In our boardroom, it says caring and quality. And what came out of that is this idea of growth, and kind of like Mayor Higgins said, that growth is a part of who we are as humans. And so it was kind of becoming almost a negative thing, but the reality is that we are growing, and we wanted to intentionally say that growing is what we do with our students, what we do professionally. Yeah, our numbers might be growing as well, but let's look at that as an opportunity and embrace it. Since that iteration of our strategic planning, we've done a lot of outreach to our community, and we've done it in new ways. If you're a parent in our community, you probably have taken a survey called the Thought Exchange, which is totally different than the old kinds of surveys. You know, the first question is basically, what are we doing that needs to get fixed? Which is kind of a scary question to put out to 7,000 families, right? But just kind of embrace that, you know, what is it that we need to improve? The second question is, like, what is it that we're doing well? Third is kind of, what would you like to see? And then the fourth is just open-ended. And what happens in these exchanges is people offer their thoughts on that, and then a second round happens, and you can prioritize those thoughts. And so it gives us a depth of detail and information that we didn't have before when we were just asking people, do you really like us, or somewhat like us, or not so much like us? And then what do you do with that information? And so as we've went through this iteration, you can see, you know, engaging 1,745 people in a conversation is good, right? And it's diverse too. And so what comes out of that, what elevates as themes that a lot of people are getting energy around. And then this year we're launching again another cycle to look at 20, 30 years down the line. What kinds of facilities do we need to make sure that we can support the kids the way that we're doing currently, maybe even better, right? And so that's an exciting process. The other thing that's really important to me, I learned maybe in year 3 of my career that if really I should have a student presenting this, because if you put students in the position and you get out of their way, they always do amazing things. And so we've really been intentional about engaging student voice in our system. And there's lots of different ways that we do that. We do it with a thought exchange similar to the parent. But also last year, we tried to interview every single senior in our system for an exit interview. So what were the things that worked well for you in your time in Camas? What ideas do you have for us to better serve students? Those conversations are powerful. The kids are amazingly humble and appreciative, and they have great insight. If you ever need an opportunity to get more hope about the world that we live in, call me and say, I want to do senior exit interviews, because I guarantee you'll be inspired. And you'll leave there thinking, wow, right? My job is to not mess this world up, because these kids are going to take it to a whole nother level. And we also do things like in partnership with the Liberty Theater, we have a film festival every year that allows students to kind of share their voice in different formats. So lots of good inputs in our system to know if we're on track. Like any organization, we have a lot of challenges and opportunities, and we try to choose to look at them from an opportunity standpoint. But student engagement, how many people have teenagers? I'll follow Steve's lead of raising your hand. Have you ever competed with like this? Right? Like it's a new world around engaging kids. And so our educators are really challenging themselves to figure out what does it take to really engage a kid, to hook them, to get them passionate about their learning. So that's an ongoing battle every day. This idea of social emotional health. The world we live in is very immediate. We know what's happening all the time. Wonderful things and also tragic things. And our kids carry that with them. The other thing about our world is that we have all these images flashed upon us all the time of everything is perfect for somebody else. and it can feel very isolating. I mean, how many times do you post a picture on social media of your family just looking like a wreck and chaos going on, right? The reality is that happens in everybody's family most of the time, but all we see is the picture I put up, right? I should have put up the real Snell family picture. But so our kids are dealing with that, and they feel like they're the only ones that are feeling alone. And so really as a community, how do we embrace that? How do we make sure that every kid that's walking down the street, that when we drive by them, we feel like that is our kid, and we want to make sure that they're doing okay. We've talked about this. So we want to create sustainable systems. We want to make sure that the resources that our kids get today, that we're giving that or more resources to them tomorrow. If you've been paying attention to the state funding challenges related to public schools, you probably know that there was a Supreme Court decision, kind of some tension between the legislator and the Supreme Court about are they funding schools enough, and back and forth. And our legislators were courageous. They tried to do something different with this session. I kind of think of it like healthcare a little bit. You're not going to get it right the first time, no matter how hard you try. And so we're kind of in that process where they're shifting the model, and because they're making a shift, it's going to be clunky for a bit. And so that affects us, and we're paying attention to that and trying to understand what that funding looks like. Unfortunately, with our growth, our taxpayers voted a bond in 2016, proved it. We've been building some schools, which I'll tell you more about. And anytime a school district goes out to a bond, there's an opportunity to get state matching funds, similar to kind of the grants that the city gets around road improvements. Unfortunately, this cycle, for the first time in I don't know, forever, maybe our lifetimes, the state did not adopt a capital budget this year. And they didn't adopt it because of a political decision that was unrelated to schools. And they're still working through that. But how that affects our community is we had $13.44 million sitting, waiting, that was approved, that with that capital budget adoption that we would be receiving. And so some of our bond projects, and in particular the Garver Auditorium and Theater, was something that we're hoping to remodel, and we still hope to do that, but we're in limbo until our legislator can decide what they're going to do with that state capital budget. So part of my role is to continue to advocate for things that affect our students in a positive way. So I've been meeting frequently with anybody that will listen to me. Also, at the federal level, obviously, you know, there's a change at the federal level. And so anytime there's a change at the presidential level, that impacts us locally with what the federal funding looks like. And there hasn't been a whole lot of attention on public education recently. There's been a lot of other things going on, and it's hard for us to determine what the priority is at the federal level right now, other than school choice. And school choice is something that we deeply believe in within our school system. And this is Jeff Snell, my bias. I believe that school choice should happen within a public school system where you have elected school board members that are responsible to a community. This job is to make sure that every student has the opportunities, not some students. And some of the school choice, sometimes it appears, and again speaking from me, that some of our most marginalized at-risk students don't have the same opportunities that they would in a public school system. So we're wary of that, and we want to make sure that we're trying to advocate for our kids within those models. This last one may get your attention, or you may not even worry about it at all. School start times. There's been a ton of research about adolescents, and if you have an adolescent, you may know that it's hard to get them to go to sleep at night, and it's even harder to wake them up in the morning. Well, there's something biological about that. Adolescents need to sleep more, and so we had a group of citizens that came together last year and did a lot of research and made a recommendation to the school board about moving our high school start times back later in the day and looking at our earlier learners who tend to be up early and ready to go, flip-flopping some of those. And so we're actually in a process now where we'll do another survey with our stakeholders to kind of understand where they might be with this. And then our school board will have a workshop in November to make some recommendations around what we do in the future. I've learned, and maybe Mayor Higgins can understand this, you can talk about things for a long time, and when you get close to the decision point, then it tends to get a lot more momentum around it. And so we're feeling that, which is outstanding. We really want to engage people in the discussion. So I mentioned caring, quality, and growth was what we added in our strategic plan. And this year, our theme is really around this idea of seeing and serving each student. And there's kind of three pillars to that seeing and serving. And you won't hear us talk very often at all about academic excellence. We have it in our district. Our kids do really, really well on assessments and other indicators like that. But they do really well because we have great teachers and we also have a great community. It's kind of this reciprocal, people come here because of the schools. They really value education and they have the resources to support schools. So there's a real focus on academics, and our kids have done a great job. Where we really try to pay attention to, though, is the spirit of the student, right? And spirit of the student is definitely developed through academics. As a math teacher, I get really excited about the Pythagorean theorem and binomial factoring and all that. I mean, that really gets me going. I don't know if it gets you guys going the same way, right? So we find our places of passion within the school day, and we develop those and try to engage kids with it. But we also want to think about their experiences outside the school day. And so in our community, we're very fortunate. Mayor Higgins is kind of a football fan. I don't know if you know that about him. But in addition to football, we have, about over 50% of our secondary students are engaged in something. That's pretty cool, right? And of the kids that aren't engaged, our most recent survey, some were like, I don't want to be engaged. Leave me alone. Stop asking me if you want to play this or do this, right? And that's great too. But you think about, you've got 7,100 students, about 4,000 of them are secondary students. About 2,000 kids are doing a club or a sport right now. That's awesome, right? And the lessons that they learn and the relationships that they build are going to serve them a lifetime. And we've tried to also think about, we have some really excellent athletic events, teams. That is the national championship soccer team from last year, and it is the national championship team. They gave up one goal the entire season, and that's the senior group. So you have that level of excellence. And then we have intramural programs. So last spring, we had over 100 middle schoolers showing up at our gyms to play volleyball with each other. On Friday nights at Camas High School, we had 60 kids showing up to play volleyball with each other. And, as great as our athletics are, we have one professional athlete right now in the Major League Baseball system, but most of these kids are just going to go off and do amazing things in their communities and in their work. And those lessons can be learned just as well on the intramural court as they can on a championship soccer field. And so each year we try to expand the opportunities for kids to have in our community. Social emotional learning. I talked about how important that is. And I pulled social emotional learning. Sometimes it's what does that mean? Right? We may have all kinds of different definitions from that. So I wanted to just kind of have you leave with this thinking around this, that these are a set of skills that it's not like just touchy-feely stuff. Right? This is really important stuff that are the kinds of things that employers want in their employees. They're the kinds of things that make families great. It's knowing yourself, really. Understanding who you are, setting goals for yourself, knowing how your emotions play into that, right? Finding balance in your life. And those are hard things for kids to work through. I'm still working through it at 44, right? And your 16, 17-year-old, Lord, my son is working through it all the time, right? So we want to support families with that, and we need your help with this. You may have seen around town the signs that say, "We believe in you." Has anybody seen those signs posted? Yeah, that's a local group, a family that unfortunately lost a son, right? And they're very passionate. They don't want that to happen to any other family. And so they're putting signs out, and we're bringing them in and figuring out how we can partner. Next Thursday, we have all our faith-based community partners coming in for a luncheon to talk about how do we connect and serve our kids together. That's what makes this place special. That's the kind of character that we have, people that really care about these kids. I mentioned the senior exit interviews we did last year. Every year when we come back, we get one day with all of our staff all together. And traditionally, we've done a lot of fun things to try to rally people, make them feel excited for the school year, challenge them a little bit. But this year we did something different. I went to the drama program, and I said, we did all these senior exit interviews. I have all these quotes, all this reflection, page after page after page of data. And we interviewed over 550 kids. And I hired them to both challenge and inspire our 1,000 employees. And so over the summer, they wrote a production based on that, about a 15-minute thing. And when we all came back together, the students reflected back to our staff the voices of their peers. It was powerful. I wanted to share at the end of the skit, they kind of all stopped and froze, and then on the back curtain, they had this video playing.
I spent a lot of time worrying about things that seemed really important. Everyone always made me feel like they were important, but they really weren't.
My counselor was my lifeline.
The school wants me to thrive.
It felt different with one student gone.
I don't have the best relationship with my family, but when I'm here or on the field, I'm home.
Girls' sports deserve just as much support as boys. I get to school over 45 minutes early and then sleep in my car so I can park and then be on time. Students want to be held accountable, for people to care about them, to work with them to overcome whatever the situation is.
I'm not a number, I'm a person.
They did a great job with it, and they were really, to hear them as they were going through the creative process. I got to come in like 3 or 4 times at different stages, and to hear them talk about how serious they took the responsibility of reflecting back their peers' voices, and how cautious they were about how they wanted to challenge, but they didn't want to make staff feel like they were failures. But there were things that they felt like that we could do better. And that's that spirit that we would go back to, that risk taking, and you know what? Last year was a good year, but we could do it a lot better. And so let's get intentional about what we're going to do to make it better. Just a little about our system. We are a system of people. And so when we look at our revenues and what we spend our expenditures, it's about 87% of our revenue goes out in terms of staffing. And that makes sense from a public school standpoint. Once our facilities are in place, it's really just running them, turning on the heat, maintaining them, but really it's about putting people in front of kids, connecting people to kids, driving kids to school, serving them food. All of it is a real social interaction, and so that's where the bulk of our expenditures go. I mentioned that new state funding model, and so on the left is what where our revenues come from. The bulk of those this year, 73%, come from state apportionment. So how that works is for each student, they call it a full-time equivalent student, FTE, and then we get a certain amount of money from the state. You can also see that there's a big portion, the blue is our local levy that was approved. Last year we ran another levy and it was approved here. Those are usually 3-year cycles. We get a little piece of federal money, and then local revenues, those are things like fees and things that are more just kind of turning each year. In the new model, you can see what happens is the state apportionment gets larger. And so in order to make this new system, the legislator is going to do kind of a tax swap. So they look at your local property taxes, and they are capturing more of those local funds at the state level and then redistributing those across the state. So in our community, where we've benefited from tremendous local support historically, it actually is going to hit us a little harder than it would other communities because our local levy gets cut and that state money comes up. And so we're anticipating a void. Now, part of that, though, is the state is taking on this new challenge. They have said that each district would have a hold harmless as we work through this, so that the district wouldn't be penalized through this shift. And so over the next 2 to 3 years, this is going to happen. And so we just have to be mindful and advocate for how it's going to kind of roll out and affect us locally. So if you're interested in that, that's... it's like a 195-page bill that was passed at 11:59 before government shut down, in midsummer. There's a lot of details still to be worked out, but I'd be happy to spend more time with you related to that. We've had a long-term, growth plan as a school district. So way back in 1993, 1992, groups of citizens got together and saw the growth and recognized that we needed to do something about that. And so we've passed a series of bonds, and we've had multiple phases of this growth plan. And so we're just kind of along the way, we've been planning for this growth, and this is how we've chosen to kind of embrace it and utilize it. So back in 1994, 1999, we had a bond, and it delivered Skyridge Middle School for us. Then we went into phase 2, and we added Prune Hill Liberty Middle School from the old Camas High School, and we built a new Camas High School. Then in 2016 through 2016, we actually passed this bond by 59 votes or something, and it was right before the recession hit. And so it was very advantageous for us as a builder because the people were looking for work. So this bond, we were actually able to deliver a lot more than we thought we were because the price of construction was lower than we thought. And so schools like Grass Valley and Helen Ballard and Woodburn, Hayes Freedom High School, Doc Harris Stadium, all those were as a result of that bond. Then I mentioned in 2016 we approved another bond, and we are creating a new Lacamas Heights Elementary. That's our oldest elementary, and it has the smallest capacity. Most of the elementary schools now are about 600 students, and so the new Lacamas Lake Elementary will be 600 students. We are building a new high school, Discovery High School, which will be on the Sharp campus. We also purchased a building there, a former Sharp building, and put in a middle school, Odyssey Middle School there. So that's that plus back on the original slide of the schools that we have in our district. We're also hoping with that capital budget approval that we can start work on the Garfield building and Joyce Garver Auditorium and renovating that. Phase 5 is when we projected potentially another bond would be needed in the 2020, 2021 kind of year if the growth continued to trend the way it has been. And so we think about that from a financial standpoint and how much debt we take on. And so that's why that long-range planning is starting now in 2017, because it takes us that long to get ready for it. I'll see if these load. These are drone videos of the new sites. So Discovery High School on the left, if you drive at all by Prune Hill Elementary, Pacific Rim, in that area, you're going to see it coming out of the ground. Every day it's raising up out of there. It's pretty amazing. And so adjacent to that, and you can see just kind of in the sunlight there, is the current building that we occupy. And we have about 220 middle school students there right now, and they were there last year, was the first year. The idea is that we would have about a 360 capacity middle school that would feed into a 600 capacity high school that sits there on the ridge, has an amazing view of the valley. It's also close to a lot of the amazing businesses that we have in our community where we would like to see students work with them. One of the design principles of this school is contribution to community. So we really want our kids out there engaging with the people beyond the school. On the right side is the spot for Lacamas Lake Elementary. And if we can't go on Ledbetter Road right now, but if you were to go on Ledbetter Road when it turns up, past Camp Curry, just up off the road to the east is the site. And it's a great, amazing site. It's actually a bigger site than we have for any of our elementary schools, but it was also a really hard site to get it to fit because there's endangered white oaks, there's artifacts. It's like going to be awesome once we get it built and fitted in there. There'll probably be some trails around there, and then there's opportunities for partnerships with the city as well because of the site of the facility, and you can see it raising up from the ground as well. As Mayor Higgins talked about the projects and going to the website, the city site, to get updates, we also have regular updates on these projects, where we're at with them, opportunities to kind of engage with us around the project. So I'd encourage you to look at the website. We also send out kind of a quarterly newsletter to our patrons related to that as well. So, caring, quality, and growth, seeing and serving each of our students. When we have this opportunity to come together like this, I really want to challenge people. If you're not able or haven't been able to go and attend an event or talk to a kid about their school, I would really encourage you to do so, because there's some amazing things happening. And it's as a result of this community that we live in. And so, you heard the young lady up there say that girls' sports matter just as much as boys, right? So if you're so inclined, attend a girls' basketball game or a volleyball game sometime, or slow pitch softball. You'll see these moments of failure and triumph, and you'll see parents who are so invested in their kids. If you haven't been to a choir concert or a band concert, oh my gosh, take advantage of it. It's like these kids are so talented. It's just amazing experiences. Our drama production, they just finished a play called Silly Heart, which was the second annual fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Our kids interview these families that are going through these terrible struggles, and then they pour themselves out on a stage. You can't stop from crying, and everything is going to benefit others. It's just so moving and powerful. So we're so fortunate that we get to do what we do, and we get to do it in a place like this. So after the conclusion, happy to answer any questions for you. And I think I'll turn it back to Mr. Marshall, and then a video from Mr. Rip, right?
Now, you might have noticed at certain junctures tonight I've been flying by the seat of my pants. It's true. But for this next part of the evening, I'm going to be flying completely blind. This is a video presentation from David Ripp, and so I haven't seen it. I'm going to make a prediction. I think we're going to see a continuation of some of the common themes that we've seen tonight. And I just jotted some down. Growth, special leaders who have a connection to a special community. And when I'm talking about special leaders, we're not just talking about Jeff and Scott. We're talking about their supporting cast. In the schools, Jeff has Tracy and Connie and Julie, Jessica. We're all working on behalf of students. Mayor Higgins has Pete, Jerry, has Police Chief Mitch Lackey back there. City Council has Greg, Melissa, Shannon, and Bonnie, who has a foot in both realms, school and city. I think the port, just like all these other two entities, they're preserving resources and trying to determine what's important while at the same time promoting business, industry, and future opportunity. And I think when you boil it down, Jeff showed the pie chart. Where the money goes in education, it goes people working with people. In the city, it's not people, humans working with humans. And I think that when you strip down what the port does, it's the same thing. It's the importance of human leadership. And so I do know, John, the port is at capacity. Is that correct? And so we're trying to create more capacity. And so let's hear some more of the details related to that challenge from David himself.
Welcome to the Port of Camas, Washougal. We are much more than just a port. The Port of Camas, Washougal is comprised of a first-class port and marina, its own public airport, a booming industrial park, and a group of beach, park, and trail recreational areas. Located right on the shores of the beautiful Columbia River with a backdrop of Mount Hood, the marina boasts a paved launch ramp, wave runner floats and kayak storage, and enough moorage slips to accommodate over 350 vessels. While you're here, grab a bite to eat on the water at the Puffin Cafe. The marina is the gateway to the Columbia River Gorge and the place to launch your next fishing adventure for some of the best salmon and steelhead fishing anywhere. The port is also proud to manage its own airport, Grove Field. Owned and operated by the port, Grove Field is located just outside the city of Camas, Washington. The airport offers 77 hangars and 14 tie-downs for lease, along with FBO and training facilities. It's open to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Port of Camas, Washougal also operates an industrial park that covers over 300 acres.
The decision to come to Washougal has been the best decision we could have made. It was the obvious choice as soon as we found this spot. I'm from Southwest Washington, and I'd been brewing in Portland for the last 10 years, and I knew that I wanted to start something local here. We stumbled upon this building in the port. Within an hour, we knew that this is where we wanted to be. It was really phenomenal. And people at the port at Camas, Washougal are some of the friendliest folks, and they're always accessible by phone. I don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to try to get to somebody to get an answer that I need. Everybody is readily accessible, ready to help me at any given stage. The people that we've met here and the resources that we have here have been outstanding.
The port has been great. They've been phenomenal to work with. Help in every way they can. I really can see that they're after getting family wage jobs in the community. They have their own buildings as well, so they understand what the owners need, and been great to work with, as well as the city of Washougal has been just phenomenal to work with, getting through the site plan design process and then through the building permit process, as well as during construction. It's been a great experience for the owner as well as for me and the contractors. They've all mentioned it to me that they would definitely like to do some more work up in this area.
The latest development of the waterfront revitalization has begun with the opening of the Washougal Waterfront Park and Trail. Built right along the river, the park showcases stunning views of the Columbia River and Mount Hood, as well as covered picnic areas, a non-motorized water access launch, and plenty of space for community events. The port is also working with Governor Inslee and Washington state officials for improvements to the port's industrial park and adjacent Steigerwald Lake National Wildlife Refuge to expand and improve our native habitat. The Port of Camas, Washougal invites you to come by and see what's new and exciting at the port. While you're here, check out the Visitor Center to learn more about the port and all the amazing things this region has to offer. For more information and the latest news, check us out online at portcw.com.
All right, well, I get to be the person who says thank you for being here this evening. I know many of you are the movers and shakers in this town, and you invest a lot in Camas. And tonight you've invested more time. But we've reached the finish line, and so I think I get to have the privilege to say this concludes the 2017 State of the Community. Thank you, and drive home safely.